I can assure you that one lesson I learned after studying geopolitics for about 50 years is that the concept of a benevolent great power is an oxymoron. And there's no such thing as a benevolent great power. All great powers, without exception, and this has only been true for 4,000 years, will pursue their own interests. And we take it, in geopolitics, there are price makers and price takers. So United States and China today are price makers. We are price takers. And if we have any kind of illusion that there's a nice, benevolent, cuddly, great power that will look after you and sacrifice its own interests, then you're in trouble. So in geopolitics, which is a very cruel game, and the countries that don't understand geopolitics are the ones that get sucked into conflict and get sucked into problems.
大家好，这里是感人四绝频道。英才这段精彩集锦里，有人把仁慈的大局呈自相矛盾，砍出一副看透史、洞悉的大主政治的姿态，仿佛大主只还算计，小蛙只能乖乖接受阔菜上冷酷，阔菜上或像是把锅菜上，或像是把搂肉教食的化成了弱肉教食的方罗。顺便把自己的篱笆包看成唯一清醒的答案。可问题是，既然大局都只追求自身利益，那美局标什么被默宁法的意外？既然大局都只追求自身利益，那美局标什么被默宁法的意外？叫什么同埋计价，真的只能在中美之战被动先离。接下来的正片里，西为嘉宾西北斯迷你中必崛起，美 CBI 为嘉宾南海系南海居间开正面交锋，也西谈到全球南方究竟如何看待这把标理。到底是多在定级起诉，多又在借敌爱政治之名制造焦虑？面对一股越来越多曲的世界，真正成熟的三气或许不是遵照仁慈的霸主，而是三局在大敌之感保持清醒，三局主动。
You choose your form of government. No matter what you choose, we will deal with the government in power. And so whether China is more Marxist or less Marxist or democratic or undemocratic, we cannot get to choose. It's up to the Chinese at the end of the day choose what kind of government that they have. But I do think also, if I can, or will push a little bit back at you, when the United States first fell in love with China, in 1971, can I ask you who was the leader of China at that point? Was it Mao Zedong? Would you call Mao Zedong a great defender of human rights? Would you say that this is a man with a liberal mind, a liberal spirit, someone you can, develop a kinship with? You know what I'm getting at, right? So when it comes to geopolitics, it's a very cruel business. Ideology can be put aside when necessary, can be brought to the fore when necessary. And even today, if you say that the United States will stand up to Communist Party's regimes, why are you cultivating Vietnam? What's the difference? I mean, doesn't Vietnam also have a communist party in power? So I'm only saying this because the rest of the world, when I say that the rest of the world has changed, they've become much more sophisticated. They see through all this. They see that, yes, there's a serious geopolitical contest going on between the United States and China. They are very worried about it. They want to maintain good ties with both, and they won't pass judgment. And it's not just, to be fair, Orville, it's not just Singapore. I can give you, if you want a list of 100 countries, I can give you a list of 100 countries that are in that position.
Could we talk a little bit about how countries are approaching this desire not to make a choice? Like, what are the factors, Orville, from your perspective, that are narrowing countries' options down into making a choice between the U.S. and China when it's clear that most countries don't want to choose or want to be able to maybe choose both? but also that it benefits both the U.S., China, and the world for there to be that type of cooperative tissue. What are some of the major irritants?
Well, before I get to the irritants, let me just say, Kishore, that 9 U.S. presidential administrations wholeheartedly supported engagement. And I take your point that, you know, we pick and choose who we oppose. But I think the difference is that Vietnam has no sort of hegemonic pretenses in the South China Sea, is not in conflict over the Senkakus, is not competing with the Philippines for Second Thomas Shoal, is not threatening to have some sort of a reunion with a forced reunion with Taiwan. And of course, I remind you that we've had a little dust up in India of late, and the entire Arunachal Pradesh in the Northeast Territories is claimed by China. They have maps with Chinese names on places. That shoe is going to drop. So it isn't that just China's a nice little authoritarian country wanting to trade with the rest of the world. It seems to me that what is agitating the situation and making it very difficult, not just for the United States, but is China's pretensions to rejuvenate in a way that has global aspirations, first in Asia and possibly elsewhere. We don't know. So I think that, you know, this is a very much more complicated thing than just China rejuvenating and restoring itself to a place of greatness. It is reaching out in ways which I think are very unsettling for Southeast Asia. And when I'm in Singapore, the thing that stuns me is I understand Singapore's situation. But actually, I mean, I think you Singaporeans, and I use you as a kind of a metaphor for many people in Southeast Asia, do feel rather profoundly comfortable with Americans. And actually, many people feel rather uncomfortable with China, but it is you don't want to express it too loudly because you don't want to rock the boat. Fair enough. I get it. But I would love to hear you address what I think some would call China's hegemonic pretensions in Asia and the destabilizing effect of that throughout the entire region.
Do you think China is making the same mistakes that other industrialized countries are making, that they expand too far, too fast, that they try to wield the power that they've just received too quickly? And how does that uncomfortableness in Southeast Asia with some of China's behavior play out from your perspective?
Well, I can assure you that one lesson I learned after studying geopolitics for about 50 years is that the concept of a benevolent great power is an oxymoron. And there's no such thing as a benevolent great power. All great powers, without exception, and this has only been true for 4,000 years, will pursue their own interests. And we take it, in geopolitics, there are price makers and price takers. So United States and China today are price makers. We are price takers. And if we have any kind of illusion that there's a nice, benevolent, cuddly, great power that will look after you and sacrifice its own interests, then you're in trouble. So in geopolitics, which is a very cruel game, and the countries that don't understand geopolitics are the ones that get sucked into conflict and get sucked into problems. And here I want to add a very important point, because I think to some extent, Orville, you're being unfair to the Southeast Asian states. There are, at the end of the day, 660 million people living in Southeast Asia. That's about double the population of the United States of America. And this region of the world, I want to emphasize, is the most diverse region of planet Earth. Out of 660 million people, 250 million are Muslims, 150 million are Christian, 150 million are Buddhists, Mahayana Buddhists, Hinayana Buddhists, Taoists, Confucianists, Hindus, and as I told you, we have lots of communists also in Southeast Asia. If there was one region on planet Earth that should be destined for war and conflict, and the British describe it as the Balkans of Asia, that was Southeast Asia. Now, can you please ask yourself a simple question? why have there been no major wars in Southeast Asia since 79? That's 45 years. There is a hidden genius in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN. We know how to manage geopolitics. We know how to adjust, adapt, be flexible. We know how to maintain good ties with the United States, and we do. When President Biden invites the 10 ASEAN leaders, they come, right? And when President Xi invites the 10 ASEAN leaders, they go. And when Prime Minister Albanese of Australia invites 10 ASEAN leaders, they go. So if you want to learn, if you want to enter a world in which different cultures and civilizations want to learn how to live in peace with each other and can live in peace with each other, come to ASEAN. Come to Southeast Asia. Please don't be condescending towards this region. This region has accomplished some remarkable things that the whole world can take lessons from. And lesson number one, learn from us how to avoid wars.
First of all, I would say that I agree with you. Condescension towards anyone is not a helpful policy, and I don't want to think that we are condescending towards Southeast Asia, and I think actually quite the contrary, that we try to recognize that Southeast Asian countries are, as I said, stuck in the middle, and I think we understand that. And it's not, I think, the goal of the United States government to push people. But that still doesn't answer my question of China's pretensions, both within China and outside of China, and how you read those, and what you think the answer is as the middle ground shrinks. And ask the Koreans after what happened with the THAAD missile crisis, and they got punished. Ask the Japanese. Ask the Indians. I mean, you've seen this, you know this. So how should we respond to this?
这把齐闽美中看摆全球秩序的对谈，表面上是在邓论今古大秦究竟看摆什么，旧面上是在追门一股更深藏的门带。纠摆世界已今回不到新去季代，剧中揭起不可逆，尬美间也不甘亦放弃，既有勇贼志，何在究竟在如何在秋改如何在抗北，施展找到新的平衡。秦整八邓论可以看出，美中情极限的密赛的话，你不是某一国事件突然造成的，也不只是行秦两岛人性格差异的结果。过去几十年，中几加入全球狙击大戏，推动产量升级，逐步行世界供给走向科技、金融和高端制造领域。美局西走，在全球化大程中积累了巨大的收益，同时也承受着产量外移、涉三分化和强粮料三力交流。产料繁料利益和战略营制的战料三略，具求把原本以结盟和合作派主的战线推向了今天的战略跳联贸三的第一章，是脑力之战美约三硬装产料贸三心中产买能炸挑败自身地位的对手。中比苏提希望恢复一国大ฝี和古老文明昂有的影响力。第二章是秩序之比。美局更修禅由自己主导计策习作，中比希望在建有比系中割得更大的肥点，甚至推动形成更加多元的密赛力对抗。第三章苏值、苏比和政治制度之比，方都在密一地方的制度，密方都在密撒一比比撒吧，比撒撒。都必把对方的方式带动作理解，必把自凶，把自己的行动解闭成自我保护。最为票的地方恰恰就在这里，方都相信自己只是被迫回昂，必方都你明白对方才是局赛化的原堂，局判就挨塞必方，镜片限制，呆塞必是quân事部署，狼盟唱整。这些措施密体看或局都能找到合理理由，但自己他密体脏炸家就可能炸架，就可能炸主战失去密解，最后上场半副加价就可能再复提到的密体邓论中反复提到的南海以及洲台海域之所以格外敏感，是因萨炸谢门代统治捐东仇时期民族认同、两土主炸和大西性抓起。 对推中据而言，遂批不经事件虽中的政治和安全门带，也是近代史宗景的一部分。对推安美居及其盟友而言，遂海居准又松美签到地比安全、航行自由和安盟成大。正因区各方都不敢退，所以越需要保持克制，越不能把相对挺型的表态推到无法回汤的位置。但这一把对弹也提醒我们，世界你不是只有美居和中举和中举居聚抓塞苦仙桥，东南居家的续进尤其值得重视。他们既需要中居俱来的防疫、投资和试把，也需要美居提供的安全保障，既不敢被任何一方支配，也不想在大分中被迫选举，都蒙长期以来形成的 C。就是在夫喜喜批喜宴中保持狂通，在利益之感准找四性，在不放弃自身利霸的同志，尽量避免把矛盾推向百姓。这是一主班推常被大局忽略的智慧。小班和中等班家们只是不能用大寡的方式理文代，他们不能用班队修复来衡量外交，也不能把所有 B 一线都干化成朋友或踢人。对这些语家来说，真正重要的不是得罪逐成 B1 霸主，而是如何在大 B1 加基11加剧。真正重要的不是得罪加剧制，保住非一展空感。政策自主和设 B1 即因此所密以正杂的对瓦政策或者正杂的对美政策都不昂在建立在幻想之上。不能幻想中密题因密题贴密题力而自同放弃崛起，也不能幻想美局密题迷主动接受影响力全面收束，更不能把一股夫密集加干己描述成善良或协力 C， 把所有门台都依地接某位良道人的古人性格，大寡的都有自身利益，大寡也都以都迷繁杂。真正成熟的迷虑是承认对方的存在，理解对方的底线，通知非 PQC 确知古烂。更重要的是，非把设非必思重新思考，什么才是最值得优先解切的门带。气候、塞化、核武器、塞公共卫生危机、能源安全、炼石公安和人工智能附下，都不是任何一股比家能具比的自谁里的难带。地球以村不再是彼此隔森的独多船，而更像是一艘遥有独多船多的共同聚联。一股船居失火，严居蔓延到其他区域，一股不佳的疫情、金融危机或暗度居也可能迅速引向全世界。如果各居只顾攥好自己的蛮居，不难以共同修复船呐。那么所苏比的与 BT 加安全最首也苏比的毫无意义，美中 BT 加安全最首也苏比也有苏比股各自的瑜伽利益，但酷比不能成聚居合作的借口，更不能凌驾于人类共同生存的门带之上。真正有歼灭的良道力，不是把对手贴地踢倒，而是在无法消灭对手的剑弩中找到数方都不知还失控的相排方式。这把邓论没有求出一个干解答案，因排美中排线本身就不存在干解答案。我们看到的是海解股大决之战的绝考性矛盾，也是一股正在重溃的世界，未来可能仍其有摩擦、制裁、quân演和激烈言，但只要广通渠道还在，只要各方仍然安逸把长期 standing 放在短期情修之前， C 就不是唯一的结局。对普通三雄来兴吧，也不只是判就敌对局结局吧，就不是唯一的结局。对普通三选把靠感到不同地不同最佳的真处境，一股国家如何看重把境，一股国家如何看重大境。不能只由西方美确定，一国不大家如何看美局，也不能只由负一阵定计。世界正在进入多文明、多中心、多利益交织的时代，真正重要的能力是在复杂信息中保持判大一，在激烈对立中保留理性。最后，这把对单留求我命的正史或故事，大不可以负，但不能忘记情节。情家可以教，但不能把较大理解成可以随意支配别人。世界可以撬，但必须保留合作的空间，因迁就哪股群家，狙击哪股居家。居拿去文明，最久都生活在同一片天空下，也共同承载着整艘地球之船的命运。启明大家在评论区分享你的看法。你宁巧美中之感最为抗避的矛盾是什么？世界又在如何避免被迫先抢占？小战旗抗战，赢点强教，看更多精彩视频。